Loud, Mrs. Tomiak. Nice and loud. Okay, here are some places you may need to know for your quiz. Oh, we got a nice history cake that we made up today. Yeah, this is fourth period's history cake. Very nice. History cake. Here are some places you may need to know. Now, do you have to draw a world map in your notes? I've seen smart kids do it. Like a rough sketch of a world map. I mean, if I'm giving you an open note quiz, and you know there's going to be places on it, is there anything to stop you from just sketching a world map in your notes? Maybe tomorrow or tonight? No! It would be very smart to do that. Here are some places you need to know. You need to know where Mesopotamia is at. How do you find Mesopotamia? I'll show you. You look for the Mediterranean Sea and the Persian Gulf, and it's right in between in the modern-day country of Iraq. Iraq. Mesopotamia means land between rivers. It's one of the first places in human history to have what we call civilization. They invented the wheel, the plow, and the sail. Mesopotamia. You also need to know where the United States of America is at. You live here. You live here. You know I'm tracking you? I am tracking you. I've put a chip under your skin when you weren't looking. Right at the beginning of the year. And look, I'm tracking you. I am. You are here. Do you see it? You are here. Yeah, I'm tracking your movements. When you move, the arrow will move too. Do you know on our last quiz, only 82% of you know where you live? Like what continent you live on. Yeah, I know. There's 18% of you that don't know we live here in North America. Why do you need to know this? Let me tell you. When the aliens abduct you tonight, they will. They will abduct you, and they'll do experiments on your brain. And then at the end of the night, they're going to ask, we want to drop you off home. Where do you live? And you'll need to know where you live so they could drop you off back home before they wipe your memory out. Okay? You live here. You also need to know where Egypt is at. Egypt is just to the left of the Red Sea. Do you see the bunny ears right there? See the bunny ears right there? Yeah, it's just to the west of those bunny ears or the Red Sea. You need to know where China is at. More people know where China is at than where they live. Can you believe that? It'll be on the next quiz. So make sure you know where these places are at. Some oceans we've been getting confused. These could be on the quiz. The Pacific Ocean. Did you know the Pacific Ocean's over here? Off the coast of China? Did you know that? But did you know that the Pacific Ocean's over here too? And somebody said, how could it be over here and over here? The world is round. It connects on both sides over here on this map. So the Pacific, I remember it's off the coast of California. West Coast, Pacific Ocean. Where is the Indian Ocean? By India. Do you know India points to its ocean? Look. India is the thumbs down on Asia. Big thumbs down. And it points to its ocean. Where's the Atlantic? Oh, not by Egypt. It's over here. The Atlantic is right here. Remember Columbus crossed the Atlantic? The Atlantic is off the coast of Florida. That's East Coast. Okay? So when I'm looking for the Atlantic, I go Florida. When I'm looking for the Pacific, I'm thinking California. Got it? These could be on the quiz. When your teacher says this could be on the quiz, you know what that means, right? Yeah, it's definitely on the quiz. All right. Can you set up your notes like this?
So for this 2-column note, you really only need the margin for the left side. Because you're only going to have 2 words at the most on the left side. So you do not need a large area. Don't split it in half.
Your left column should have about a thumb. Last period I attempted to draw a thumb over here, and that
Turned out quite bad.
did not work out well. Okay. Try to draw a thumb on your paper and you'll see what the consequence could be of that. So just a thumb, because you're going to have one word over here. We are going to talk about the 5 characteristics of civilization. 2-column notes. About half of what's on this quiz is what you're going to take in notes. And about half of what's on this quiz is going to come from what we say. So if we go, this could be on the quiz, and then we say something that's not in the notes, you should probably write it down. Okay? Ooh. Are we good to go? Here's our first one. First characteristic.
The first thing to be considered a civilization according to our book is advanced cities. What does it mean to be considered an advanced city? To be an advanced city, you need to have a larger center for trade. So to be an area that is the center for trade. You also provide markets for the local farmers, for local agriculture, merchants, traders, as well as goods. And city dwellers produced goods for exchange. So to be considered an advanced city, you needed to have these things. According to our book, if you are not an advanced city, you are not a civilization. But that's according to the book definition.
So once people start making a surplus of food, this is when they start gathering in areas to trade that food for other things. We call these centers cities. It's where people who are not related to each other live next to each other. Yeah. And so advanced cities today could be like New York, or Chicago, or Beijing, or Paris. In all of those places, you'll see that those cities are a center for trade. That's true even for Chicago. If you want to go find a store of any kind, you go downtown. Many of you, do you go shopping downtown? It's where some of the best stores in the area are. Why? Because there's a lot of people who live in the city who have money, and so it's going to be a center for trade. If you are a person who makes food or you trade goods, you want to be in a city. It's where you can make money. Athletes find this out too. A lot of big name athletes like to go to a big city. And what's the reason for that? There's just more of a market for their stuff to be sold. I mean, would Michael Jordan have been the same businessman in Oklahoma City as he was in Chicago? Or what if he was on the Charlotte Hornets? Or what if he was on the Atlanta Hawks? Michael Jordan was the celebrity and star and businessman that he was because he was in Chicago, which is a major market. But there were some groups of people that never developed advanced cities. Some Native American civilizations never developed advanced cities. Some African civilizations never developed advanced cities. What about the Kalahari Bushmen? They live in sub-Saharan Africa in the desert. Wonderful group of people. They never had advanced cities. Are they not civilized? I don't know. According to your book, if a group of people doesn't have advanced cities, they won't be mentioned. Because your book is only going to discuss civilized people with advanced cities. Good. Characteristic number 2. Can you make a line going across like this? I know that's right.
So do a line straight across and don't start the next one until underneath that line.
Because now you see, if there's a question on the quiz about cities, you know where to go, right? Check this out. What advanced city is this? It's Chicago. Yeah, Chicago. Sears Tower. Soldier Field. What advanced city is this? You should recognize this thing right here. That's a model of the ancient city of Rome with the Colosseum. Did you know 40,000 people sat in the Colosseum? Just like a sports stadium today. Yeah. And then down here, this is an artist's-like interpretation of what a Mesopotamian city might have looked like. Flat-roofed houses, animals, people, okay, in Mesopotamia. Characteristic number 2.
So, you also needed specialized workers. What is a specialized worker? Well, it is someone that is an expert in a particular field or job, a particular type of work. So, during this time in agriculture, when people didn't have to chase their food around, they could stay settled and focus on one type of work. People were able to become experts in that type of work, whether it was a blacksmith, making swords, whether it was pottery, an artisan making jewelry or pottery, someone just to be a farmer, someone just to be a merchant or a trader. Those were the specialized workers of the day.
So before agriculture, most people were hunters and gatherers. Everybody was involved in food production. So you lived in a small, maybe village kind of setting, 25 to 50 people, you're probably related to them. You spend your time hunting, you spend your time gathering. Even when agriculture first starts, the hunting and gathering didn't stop. People farmed and they hunted and they gathered. But as people got better at farming, not everybody had to be involved in food production. You had some people who were involved in food production and they could create enough food for everyone. So what does everyone else do with their time? They start specializing in certain activities. Whether it's, I don't know, jewelry making. They make great bracelets. And they spend all their time making those bracelets. They don't have to worry about producing food because enough food will be produced for them. They can trade their bracelets for food. Or maybe they specialize in making pots. They are really good at making clay pots to store all of that food. And so they spend their time all day being the best pot maker they can, and then they can sell those pots for food or other things they need. And I'll give you a modern day example of a specialized worker. I'm a specialized worker. I do not create my own food. I don't even know how to hunt or farm my own food. I know how to do one thing. I know how to make children sit in a chair with a pen and learn something. I'm an expert at it. I went to school for a few years to learn how to do it. I spent years honing this trade. I am an expert in making children sit in a chair with a pen and a book so they can learn something. And then I use the money I make from this to purchase my food, to get. I don't know how to change the oil in my car. I don't know how to fix it. I take it to somebody else. I don't know how to do anything. The only thing I know how to do is teach kids when they're sitting in a chair, because I'm a teacher. I'm a specialized worker. Surgeons, doctors, lawyers, they're all specialized workers too. Your car mechanic?
You've got mechanics, you've got electricians, plumbers. Those all might be listed on your quiz, and we might say, which of these is not a specialized worker?
Ooh. So a specialized worker is a person who receives training in that thing, and they're an expert at it. They often spend years learning how to do that thing. So you wouldn't want your heart surgeon to study medical books for 2 weeks and then cut you open. How long does it take to work at McDonald's? How long does it take to be a master at it? Where you know the ins and outs, you know how to do everything your job asks you to do. 2 weeks, a month, a week, a couple days? Yeah, that's not a specialized job. At least in our modern definition of it, you're not a specialized worker working at McDonald's. There's nothing wrong with working at McDonald's, but you wouldn't want your auto mechanic fixing your engine if he had only spent 2 weeks studying engines. You don't mind getting your Big Mac from someone who just started 2 weeks ago, right? Okay, a specialized worker is someone who is trained and they are an expert at one type of work. Yeah! Make a line going across. Here are some specialized workers. Obviously a surgeon up here. What's this Egyptian doing right here? What's this Egyptian doing? It's completely legal, don't worry. What's carrying water? It's been legalized in many states. Making a pot. Yeah. Making pot? No? Okay, I can cut that out of the video. It's okay. Yeah, doing pottery, that's a specialized job. Not anybody can make a pot. You've seen those little... You ever made a pot in art class? You never made a pot in art class?
Pottery wheel.
You never made a piece of pottery? Has your little brother or sister ever made a pot? And it comes home looking like garbage? Like they use their big toe to make it? It is hard to make pots. Yeah. Here's a welder. Right? It takes many years to know how to do that skill. And in ancient times, believe it or not, a musician could be a specialized worker. It takes years to perfect a musical instrument. And this person would not be concerned with making food. They would just know how to make music. Okay, a specialized worker. Number 3.
Now, with all of these people and the growing cities, you now need complex institution. A complex institution is something such as government and established laws, a way to keep order. A lot of times you could consider religious organizations as a complex institution also.
Yeah, you know what? People need to understand what's right and wrong. And you know what? When you have a lot of people living in close proximity who are not related to each other, there's a lot of disagreement about what is right and what is wrong. When people live next to each other and they are not related to each other, they steal each other's stuff, they murder each other. There's a lot of crime that happens, and who is going to take care of that? When you have a large city, complex institutions are needed. Who's going to determine what's right and what's wrong? That can't be left up to every person, because if it is, that leads to a lot of disorder. And what are the crimes for bad deeds? Who gets to decide that? So in these cities, you have usually a center for government, a system of making laws, and then interpreting those laws. We have one too. We're no different. In the United States of America, you have many different groups of people from many different places, all coming together in one country, and we have lots of disputes with each other. There's crime, there's violence, there's theft, there's murder, and who has to oversee all that? How do you control all that? In our country, we have this. We have a constitution. It is our written law, and everybody must abide by it. Part of our Constitution says there are 3 branches of government. This is very sophisticated and complex. The judicial branch interprets the laws. If you've ever been to court, that's what's going on in the judicial branch. The executive branch enforces the laws. If you've ever encountered the police, that's the executive branch. And then the legislative branch makes the laws. That's Congress. And so, make the laws, enforce the laws, interpret the laws. It's very complex. If you've ever been to court for anything, you know how complex it is. Right? We actually need specialized workers just to get us through court. What are they called? Lawyers. Yeah, the court is so complex that you can't even go into it without an expert being present with you. Otherwise, the system will swallow you up. We recognize this. It's a complex institution that really just determines what's right and what's wrong and gives out punishments for those good and bad deeds and rewards. All right, complex institutions. It includes religion too. We mentioned that, right? Yeah, religion at its heart tells people what's right and what's wrong, gives you penalties for those things. It's a way to keep order. It's a glue that holds civilization together. Religion is definitely used by civilization. All right. Here's an example of a complex institution. This is ancient Egyptian society. At the top, you have the pharaoh and government officials. At the bottom are farmers and slaves, craftsmen, merchants, right? Did you know in Egypt, the head of their religion and the head of their government was the same person? Yeah. If you want to make things streamline and control people, have the head of your government be the head of the religion too. That's what the Egyptians decided to do. You know, the pharaoh was not only their king, he was a god. He was a man god. Yeah, and he would determine what was right and what was wrong, and you had to listen to him. Okay? Complex institution. Number 4.
Now, with all of these different institutions, these specialized workers, these advanced cities, with all of this, people needed to be able to keep track of things, such as taxes and grain storage. They also were keeping track of the passage of time, such as in the calendar. They needed to have a way in order to keep track of this. This gave birth to another specialized worker called a scribe. A scribe is the person that was trained to do the writing. I could definitely see knowing what a scribe is being on your quiz.
See, everybody today reads and they write. That's a very modern thing. We spend 12 years essentially training you to read and write. That's what school is. 12 years of training so you can learn how to read and write. Read and write in science, read and write in math, read and write in social studies. In ancient times, there was one group of people that knew how to read and write. Those were called scribes. Record keeping is first done, we think, for trade purposes. When you have people coming together who don't know each other and they're doing business dealings, maybe trading 100 sheep for 50 goats. And you want to keep track of that and make sure that everything is good, you have it written down. You've heard the phrase, put it in writing. What does that mean? Put it in writing.
Proof of it.
It's like, make it official. I want it in writing. If it's not in writing, it's not official. Trade is probably the first reason why record keeping is done. You need a calendar. Right? You need to know when to plant your seeds and when to harvest. So people start keeping track of the days of the week and the days of the month and the months of the year. If you have 40,000 pounds of grain in storage, a king wants to know that. He wants it written down. And then maybe you have people figure out how many pounds of grain you'll need each month if you're going to plan this out appropriately. Eventually, writing is used for religions as well, and many other things. Do you know there's some groups of people that never developed writing? Native Americans, for the most part, never developed writing, ever. Many African civilizations never developed writing. Does that mean they're not worth studying? Does that mean they're not civilized? Your book is going to ignore people that didn't have record keeping. I think it's wrong. We're going to study them anyway. Okay, last one. Are you ready? Check it out. This is an example of writing. It's called cuneiform. Might be on the quiz, I don't know. Cuneiform is one of the first kinds of writing. It comes from Mesopotamia. It looks like this. you might call it chicken scratch, little symbols. Yeah, you had to go to school for many years to learn how to write like this. They didn't have 26 characters like you have an alphabet. They had to memorize perhaps thousands of different symbols in order to write in that language. The language or the writing is called cuneiform. All right, last one, number 5.
So the last thing is improved technology. Now, when we're talking about improved technology, we are not talking about things that we're used to, cell phones, computers. Technology is any new invention that helps make life better. So new tools and equipment, things that would help them make pottery, the pottery wheel, the sail, the plow. Any improvements in farming and in the work of artisans is considered improved technology.
So when you have people who are specialized, who do one thing all day, they tend to find easier, better ways of doing it. They start making tools that will help them. So if your job is to make clay pots all day, you're probably going to come up with new ways to make clay pots. And you'll pass that on to your son or your daughter. And they'll continue, and they'll improve. And so we see technology improve over time for that reason. I think they call it collective learning. We are the only species on the planet Earth where the next generation knows more than the generation before. That doesn't happen with mice. It doesn't happen with dogs. So like if your dog has puppies, the mom doesn't pass on everything she ever learned to her puppies because they don't have language. So the little puppy has to learn everything from scratch. We don't have to do that. We have generations that lived in the past, and we build on our knowledge. The wheel. There are some groups of people that never invented the sail. You know, Native Americans never invented the wheel. They were living in the Stone Age when they were visited by Europeans. They had stone tools. Does that mean they're not civilized? Because they never had a wheel and they did not have metal tools. That's not true. However, your book will largely ignore people who did not have improved technology, because it's one of their 5 characteristics of civilization. Tomorrow, can you make sure that you bring your book? Because you're going to be doing a map tomorrow of Mesopotamia, and you'll need your book to do that map activity. That's it. Push in your chairs and leave.